The Congress of Berlin in 1878 awarded the Ottoman province of Bosnia to Austria-Hungary. In July of same year, Austrian troops began the occupation of the province, but encountered widespread resistance from the Muslim population of Bosnia. During the campaign, which lasted until October 1878, the Austrian forces suffered losses of 946 dead and 3,918 wounded. Although Bosnia constitutionally still belonged to the Ottoman Empire, the Austrian imperial administration began to build a rudimentary administration apparatus based on the reform of the existing systems. In many rural areas, especially in Herzegovina and along the eastern border with Montenegro, there were constant tensions and resistance to the Habsburg government. The Austrians established a special local militia force, the Panthers, but many of these militiamen became rebellions themselves, and some turned to banditry. In November 1881, the Austro-Hungarian government passed the military law, Gesetz, which imposed an obligation on all Bosnians to serve in the imperial army. This led to widespread riots in December 1881 and January 1882, which were quelled by military means. The Austrians turned to the Mufti of Sarajevo, Mustafa Hilma Hadjiomerovic, born 1816, and he soon issued a fatwa calling on Muslims to observe military law. Other important leaders of the Muslim community, such as Mehmed Bek Kapetanovic, later mayor of Sarajevo, also appealed to young Muslim men to serve in the Habsburg army. The Bosnian Herzegovinian infantry, commonly called the Bosniaken, were a branch of the Austro-Hungarian army, recruited from the within the two regions to the dual monarchy, having a significant Muslim population. These regiments enjoy a special status. They had their own distinctive uniforms and were given their own numbering sequence with the common army. The units were part of the Austro-Hungarian infantry in 1914 and consisted of 4 infantry regiments, numbered 1 to 4, and a field rifles battalion. Infantry formations were first set up in 1882 in each of the 4 main recruiting districts of Sarajevo, Banja Luka, Tuzla and Mostar. Initially, each was composed of 1 infantry company, which was enlarged in subsequent years by a company each. By 1889, there were 8 independent battalions. In 1892, 3 more battalions were established. In 1894, the military administration set up the Bosnian Herzegovinian Infantry Regiments Association in order to integrate them into the rest of the Imperial Austrian Army. On the 1st January 1894, a Most High resolution formalized this measure, but it proved to be difficult and was not completed until 1897. The Field Rifles Battalion was established in 1903. In the course of the war, the Bosnian Herzegovinian infantry regiments expanded to a maximum of 36 battalions. Each had a strength of about 1,200 men when at full strength. The pressures of heavy casualties led to a breakdown of rigid regional regiment after 1915, with Hungarian, Polish, Czech and Ukrainian troops serving in Bosnian units, while Bosnians were drafted into the nominally German and Hungarian regiments. Inevitably, this diversity led to a dilution of the effectiveness of individual units, but the Bosnian Herzegovinian regiments retained a high reputation for loyalty and effectiveness until the very end of the war. In 1916, Austria-Hungary occupied Albania, and about 5,000 Albanian men were recruited to serve in a militia with Bosnian Muslim officers. This, until known as the Albanian Legion, consisted of Albanian clansmen from mostly the regions of northern Albania and Kosovo. Captain Gojkomir Glogovac was awarded Austria-Hungary's highest military honor, the Military Order of Maria Theresa for extreme bravery, in 1917. He was subsequently ennobled as Baron Glogovac. Another prominent Bosnian officer to rise in the ranks was Colonel Hussein Biščević, who later served in the Waffen-SS. Muhammad Haji Efendić, 1898 to 1943, served as a lieutenant in a Bosnian Herzegovinian unit during World War I. Bosnian infantry regiments had several uniform features which distinguished them from other units of the Austro-Hungarian army. The most distinctive of these garments was the Oriental fez, which was worn both on parade and in field uniform. The fez had to be worn so that the tassel was at the back. Officers and cadets usually wore standard Austrian military infantry rigid, black caps or full dress shakos. However, if officers were Muslim, they had the option of wearing the fez. Tunics and blouses were consisted with tools of the standard German line infantry. The buttons were of bronze metal, carrying the appropriate regimental number. Officers' uniform consisted of light blue tunics with red collar and yellow buttons, and light blue trousers. Ordinary soldiers had a light blue uniform with red facings, including wear widely cut Oriental-style breeches, which narrowed below the knee. During the early months of World War I, the pie grey uniform proved too conspicuous against the dark forest backgrounds common on the Eastern Front. Greenish-tinged pale grey uniforms of a similar shade to that of the Imperial German Army were accordingly issued. For reasons of economy, distinctive knee breeches of the Bosnian regiments were replaced with the universal model of the Austro-Hungarian infantry. In practice, supply shortages led to mixtures of field grey, pie grey and even peacetime blue clothing being worn from the remainder of the war. The fez remained in the general use. From the Styrian Gorges, the Carinthian Mountains, the highest of the Tyrol, the shores of the Venetian Piave and the Slovenian Socha, the plains of Bohemia, the Moravian wastelands and marshes of Galicia, the slopes of the Carpathians, wherever the dying empire of Austria-Hungary spread during the First World War, there are graves and the last resting places of soldiers of the Habsburg monarchy, and among them the bravest and heartiest Bosniaks from the land of Bosnia. The vast majority of conscripts were Muslims. For most of its existence, the Bosnian units were equipped with the Austrian Gewehr Mannlicher M1819 rifle. Nearly 300,000 conscripts went to the First World War from Bosnia and Herzegovina. About 38,000 of them did not return from the battlefield. The collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire naturally brought about the disbandment of the army and hence the Bosnian Herzegovinian troops. These went back to their home country, although several thousand Bosniaks saw their return delayed, having been captured as prisoners of war. Many Bosnian soldiers from the 2nd Regiment died over 1916 and 1917 in fighting in North Italy during the First World War, and were subsequently buried in the small village of Lebring St. Margaden, near Graz, Austria. Currently there is a memorial plaque and a street named Svaja Bosnjaken Gas, the second Bosniak street, in Graz. The Italians and the Austrians have also erected a memorial plaque to the role of the Bosnian soldiers in the biggest Italian military defeat of the war. An impassable ridge defended by Bosnian soldiers 4 kilometers north of Gorica is now called the Paso del Bosniaco, Pass of the Bosniak. In honor of the 4th Regiment, a monument has been erected on the eastern slope of Rombon mountain in Slovenia. 2 Bosnian soldiers wearing fez are carved on granite, which takes into account the Rombon. In 1929, the Army History Museum in Vienna erected a memorial plaque to the Bosnian veterans.